The last thing Australia needs is a new tax. But unfortunately, that's the first item on the agenda for the re-elected Albanese government. When the Senate changes over in July, the government seems poised to impose a new tax on superannuation. And not just any sort of tax, but one on unrealised capital gains, which no federal government has ever tried to do before. Not content with the extra billions in revenue that the government already enjoys from bracket creep, this new proposed tax, which will be called Division 296, will whack a further 15% on earnings and unrealised capital gains in addition to the existing earnings tax of 15%. Now in practice, that means if the value of assets in the fund, for example, shares or property, if they increase on paper, the owner will have to pay tax on the increase even if he or she hasn't sold them. And it's actually worse than that. If those assets are ultimately sold at a loss, the owner won't get back the previous tax that they have paid. Now, the government says the new tax will only apply to earnings in super funds that are worth more than $3 million, which apparently will affect around 80,000 people in the first instance. But that will grow to hundreds of thousands of taxpayers over time, given the threshold won't be indexed. And now if the Greens, who want a $2 million starting threshold, get their way, it of course could ultimately affect millions of taxpayers. Now the tax will also be a logistical nightmare, which will require the regular valuation of privately held companies, rarely traded land, and other property that is often held in self-managed super funds. But all Australians will be indirectly affected because this cash grab will surely encourage them to shift more of their savings out of super and into housing, which of course will simply push up house prices even more. Or maybe they'll take their money out of the country completely. New Zealand, for instance, doesn't even have a capital gains tax, let alone one on unrealised earnings. Now, superannuation rightly enjoys lower rates of taxation because Australians are forced to use it, and also because they can't access their funds until they retire. And sensible people can debate how to structure these lower tax rates. But this proposed tax is an arbitrary and damaging cash grab, certainly not thoughtful reform. And it's worth pointing out that when government taxation across all levels is approaching 40% of GDP, the last thing Australians need is one more tax.